Little devil. Very nice to see you.
Hello, Spud. I like your sweater.
Thank you. So, what are we going to look at today?
Today we are going to look at the use of the present perfect simple and the past simple to express the past. First, we have to learn how to form the sentences.
Please, start with the present perfect.
Okay, the most important thing to remember is that you need to use the auxiliary have. If you are using the third person singular, you use has.
What is the third person singular?
He, she, it.
Please continue.
The verb have is the auxiliary we use in present perfect. To form affirmative sentences in the present perfect, you start with the person, then the auxiliary, and then the verb. If the verb is regular, you just put ed at the end of the verb. If the verb is irregular, you need to know the list.
So, I have to memorize a list of verbs.
Yes. Some of the most important verbs are in the list, like eat and drink.
Continue.
To form questions, you start with the auxiliary, then the person, then the verb. In questions, the verb will be an infinitive. For negative sentences, you start with the person, then the auxiliary, then not, and then the verb. The verb is again an infinitive.
So, when do we use the present perfect?
We use the present perfect to say that an action happened at an unspecified time before now. The exact time is not important. You cannot use the present perfect with specific time expressions, such as yesterday, 1 year ago, last week, when I was a child, when I lived in Japan, etc. We can use the present perfect with unspecific expressions such as ever, never, once, many times, before, already, yet, etc. etc.
Okay, so we cannot use words like yesterday, last week, or 10 years ago with present perfect.
No. That is important to remember.
What about the past simple?
We use the past simple a lot in English.
So, tell me how to form the sentences, please.
For affirmative sentences, you start with the person, then the verb, and you just add ed to the verb if it is regular.
And if it's irregular, I have to learn the list. Is that correct?
Yes. It is very important to know the list of irregular verbs.
Okay, thanks. Continue, please.
The past simple also has an auxiliary. This time it is the word did. It is used for all persons. To form questions, you start with did, then the person, then the verb. The verb will be an infinitive. To form negative sentences, you start with the person. After the person you put the auxiliary, then not, and then the verb in infinitive again.
It sounds simple.
It is very simple.
When do we use the past simple?
Use the past simple to express the idea that an action started and finished at a specific time in the past. Sometimes, we do not mention the specific time. The past simple is used a lot in English. It is used much more than the present perfect.
Is that the end of the lesson?
Well, yes. They are the basic rules. Remember, in English we use the past simple a lot. More than the present perfect.
Thanks, little devil. I am going to learn my list of irregular verbs.
A very good idea, Spud. Next week we will be looking at body parts used as verbs.
Goodbye, little devil.
Goodbye, Spud.